Hello, I'm going to be testing out The Witcher 3 with the next-gen update on my RTX 4060. I'm going to be doing it at 4K 1440p and 1080p, but we're at 4K first. Frame generation is off, DLSS is off, so just 4K native. And then going to have everything maxed out, so ray tracing is on. And then all of the settings are going to be maxed, so we've got everything set to Ultra Plus. Hairworks and everything is maxed here. It's going to be super hard, obviously, to play this at 4K, but I thought, why not check it out anyway? Just so we can compare it with the other resolutions as well. So let's have a look. Okay, so you can see here, 4K native. Absolutely not doable at all. I thought it would actually be worse than this. I thought we'd be maybe below 5 FPS. We're hitting about 9. So it's actually a little better than I thought. But yeah, this is obviously not a 4K card anyway. I thought maybe it'd just be cool to have a quick look at it. More interested to see how it does with DLSS and frame generation. You might actually have some like reasonable playability of the game. You obviously see that VRAM wise as well. We're capped out at 8 gig. Looks like we're probably spilling over into normal RAM. We're at about 20 gig RAM. So that, from what I remember, is maybe 6 or 7 gig higher than when we played with my 4090 with available VRAM. So the game overall probably uses maybe like 13 or 14 gigs. So of RAM normally. So yeah, definitely obviously not enough in that aspect. But although it is low frames, yeah, I actually thought it would maybe be a little bit worse than this. Obviously completely not playable, but I was expecting more like 1 FPS or something. Okay, so now I've got same settings at 4K, but we've got DLSS quality on, so you can see that there. And then I've also got frame generation on. So switch that on here. Doesn't look like that is really helping us here. Don't think it's really going to work. Seems like we're getting... It's not really doing anything for us. Apart from making the frame time crazy. So the latency is like way worse. Obviously that makes sense because natively we had under 10 FPS, so I mean frame generation is like, there's just no point even trying to switch that on. It's made the situation worse. Even more unplayable. Even using slightly more VRAM too, the fact that our RAM's even gone up a little bit. So I'm now going to take a look at 1440p, so we've got that here. 2560 by 1440. Frame generation is off. DLSS should be off as well. Yeah, we've got that off here. We need that on there. Ray tracing is on. And then we've got everything maxed out again. So Hairworks is all on and everything else is Ultra Plus. So let's have a look at that. Right, so at native here in the city, looks like we're getting about 20 FPS. So about twice as much as we had at 4K by the looks of it. VRAM isn't taking so much of a hit. We are maxed out again, probably by the looks of it. But we're using like 5 to 6 gig less RAM, so we definitely don't have as much of an issue there. Even our actual VRAM 2 isn't completely capped. I know we were capped at 8 gigs, so actually only got about 7.3 here. So way less of an issue. And our frame rate does seem to be keeping around the 20 FPS mark. I'm noticing GPU usage here is a little bit lower, which is a little bit of a surprise. 92%, 95%, kind of fluctuating between there. Right, so just going to have a quick look outside of the city. See what our kind of frame rate is. Kind of looks fairly similar to what we had in the city. We're at 1440p native still, with ray tracing on, so I think your frame rate is probably going to be fairly similar. Give or take maybe 1 or 2 FPS, but we had about 19 to 20 in the city. I think it's going to be fairly similar. Probably see your frame rate drop a little bit if you're in really heavy dense like forest areas and stuff. Let's see if I can try and find some combat. Could try switching ray tracing off and see. Sometimes I do have to do a quick reboot of the game for it to work, but hopefully that takes effect. Yeah, so we've got ray tracing off here now, and we've actually doubled our frame rate even from there, so Playing at 1440p with everything maxed just with ray tracing off is actually about 40 FPS. So you could easily do this, I would say, in a game like this. Shouldn't have too much stuttering or anything. Alright, so I'm still at 1440p here, but I've got frame generation on now. And I've also got DLSS on quality. We've got everything maxed out, so everything's Ultra Plus, and we've also still got ray tracing on as well. I'll just show you the settings quickly here. So yeah, everything's still Ultra Plus here. See what our frame rate's like with DLSS quality and frame generation on. And it seems like it's around about doubled our FPS. We had about 20 FPS with everything maxed out at 1440p native, so probably looking at an average of between maybe a 15 to 20 FPS increase in frames there. Pretty big stutter then, going under that gate. So yeah, looking like the frame time is a little bit choppy.
Time for a change of scenery.
It takes a great deal of courage to call a pile salvation.
But an impressive uplift of frames. I'm not really noticing the latency at all. It feels okay. Has increased VRAM a little bit though. We're definitely, by the looks of it, probably spilling over into RAM again. Our RAM's gone up from 15 to 17, almost 18, compared to 1440p native. So I know frame generation does often add a gig or two of VRAM. I think that's what we're seeing. We've obviously not got, we've only got 8 gig here, so. But if I set this back to quality and maybe switch ray tracing off, so we've got frame generation on, DLSS quality with ray tracing off and everything else maxed out. You can actually, this is where you can get around about the 60 FPS. So it's still a fairly heavy game to run. Obviously, we've got the updated graphics in the next-gen update anyway, so the Ultra Plus graphics. So even without ray tracing, it's a lot harder to run than it was. But with the help of DLSS and frame generation here, I think you know, you could sit above 60. There are definitely options there if you did want to play at 1440p. I'm gonna try and take these on, but honestly, forgotten the controls a little bit on this game. Oh dear. Oh. I forget all the controls. There's too many. I'm now going to take a look at 1080p, so we've got that here, 1920 by 1080. Frame generation's off, DLSS is off, so just native 1080p. We've got ray tracing on, and then everything's maxed out like we had a look at before. And then we'll check out some DLSS and stuff as well. So at 1080p here, looks like we're getting about 10 FPS more than what we had at 1440p with the same settings. So obviously a little bit more playable, about 30 FPS. To be honest, I think you could probably get away with about 30 FPS on this game. Although I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, and I wouldn't like to really play at that. It'd be okay, is what I'm trying to say. If you can keep a consistent 30 and above, probably just about get away with it. If you'd rather graphical fidelity over FPS. But you could maybe switch ray tracing off here. We'll have a look at that in a second. Not much different in terms of VRAM consumption. Maybe slightly less than 1440p, but we're still using a lot of RAM. We've got about the same RAM usage, so even power, GPU power is kind of about the same between 100 and 120. And GPU usage as well is down a little bit less as well. Seem to get a little bit less GPU usage on this game, even at 4K. Seems to dip down a little bit. It doesn't stay maxed out. But the stuttering is definitely not as bad as what we had at the other resolutions. It's a little bit more stable, the low of 16, so doesn't seem quite as bad. Especially when we're running through that gate and stuff there. I know we had a huge stutter at 1440p with that. So the frame time doesn't look quite as bad.
Now they'll throw us out into the street.
Fairly similar, I think, to what we had in the city. There's definitely going to be areas here, though. I can't get on the horse. Definitely going to be areas here. You see like 25. It's going to dip a little bit more than the city, I think. If we went over to the really dense forest bit, it almost definitely is a lot lower. Yeah, down into almost 20 there. So we didn't see any drops down to kind of 20 FPS in the city. I mean, we're getting even lower there. 19, 18. So yeah, definitely going to be a lot harder areas to run. And I'm just going to see it if we switch ray tracing off here to see roughly what our frame rate will be. With a bit of luck, be over 60. Looks like we will be over 60. So you could definitely play this at 1080p with everything maxed. Even Ultra Plus, like we were saying earlier, is already like a graphics upgrade from the original game. So it's already a little bit harder to run anyway, with just everything set to Ultra Plus. So you switch ray tracing off, you should be able to pretty much hold above 60 by the looks of it. Which is definitely where this card kind of falls into. 1080p 60 for a kind of demanding game like this. But for example, if I switch, if we switch ray tracing back on here, so we put this back on, and then if we switch DLSS to quality, so we've got DLSS quality there, and then if I also switch frame generation on, we should hopefully see 60 FPS if it's going to load. With a bit of luck, just almost. It's going to be just under 60. But if we're 55, oh, so we do get these big stutters going through the city with frame generation on, it seems like. Even maybe dips under 50 here, 49 I'm seeing, but obviously a lot better than we were at when we were at 30. Not quite doubling the frame rate though. I'm not noticing any latency either. I know we were saying earlier how they recommend 60 FPS and above before switching frame generation, but like I was saying, in some games you can get away with maybe 30 and above. In this case, for example, we had 30, and if I switch frame generation on here, it feels fine. No noticeable difference there. So, yeah, it varies massively game to game. If we switch that off here, you should see some probably 100? Do we see 100 FPS? Oh, not quite. Almost 100. So you could even push out, fairly high frames like this without just ray tracing. I'm definitely in this game noticing it could really benefit this game from the ray reconstruction, I think. I'm definitely noticing, especially at lower resolutions, the image with the upscaling can look quite muddy with ray tracing on as well, which I know was what we had in Cyberpunk, but ray reconstruction seems to have not fully fixed that, but it's definitely an improvement image quality wise. And I kind of noticed similar things in this game, so I wonder if maybe we see that in the future or not. Pushing even 100 FPS here. But yeah, we get these big stutters going through that specific gate there. When we go under there, it really stutters hard with frame generation on.
Another drifter in from...
So yeah, these areas outside of the city, we have some quite dense forests and stuff. It can be a little bit harder to run here. So we've got less FPS here, maybe like a 10 to 15 FPS less. Had about 100, so maybe like 10 to 20 FPS outside in some of the dense forest areas, or even just building areas. Oh, spot a bomber here. If I go native 1080p here without ray tracing, you probably notice slightly less frames than what we had in the city. I know I don't think what did we have? Couldn't quite break 60. So yeah, it's this kind of similar thing here. Probably dips down into the 40s in some bits. Like we're seeing there. And then I think with ray tracing on as well, in the city we had about 30 FPS. We're probably going to see a little bit less here, I think. I'll check it out. That don't look good. Hell no, bruh. Oh, I've probably got to use a I've got to use a magic trap. Yep. Almost got it. Wait. There's 3 of them? Oh no, bruh. Did it heal up? Bring it into the trap. There it is. That's going to be it for this video, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Make sure to drop a like on the video, leave me a comment, let me know what you think, and I'll catch you next time.